Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to Inside the Titanic Sub Disaster. Now, a few days back, I watched a video that it was by an engineer. He did a great job. I think his name was Rick. He did a great job of explaining the shortcuts that the engineers and the board of the company OceanGate took in the creation of the submarine, the Titan sub, about how, apparently the CTO said to them that the glass front of the submarine, which the people look out from, is only rated to go down to 1,300 meters. But the Titanic is down at 4,000 meters. So, and then they fired him, apparently, for voicing his concerns, his legitimate concerns. It was really like, that company should be, it's probably finished as of right now. That company shouldn't exist anymore, in my opinion. But I wanted to see, what it must have been like being on the sub at the time. Like, what must they have been going through? Like, how long were they aware of the perilous situation? How long were they panicking for? That kind of thing. So this video, I'm thinking it's going to do that. It's going to be really interesting. By the way, guys, if you enjoy the videos, definitely check out the Patreon. Loads of exclusive content and full-length movie reactions. And if you really want to help the channel out, please like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel. Let's do it.
Catastrophic implosion. The unthinkable became all too real this past week as we learned of the fate of undersea explorer Stockton Rush's Titan submersible on its way to the Atlantic grave of the Titanic. The questions, the second-guessing, David Pogue tells us, are likely to continue for a long time to come.
Probably. There's going to be so many lawsuits filed at this company. I'm sure they're going to dissolve the company to try and avoid some of them, but they're not going to get away.
Last summer, a company called OceanGate invited Sunday Morning to join an expedition to the Titanic. At the time, I was thrilled.
Next time I come out of this doorway, I'll either be a changed man forever or cursing the bad weather.
As the whole world knows now, OceanGate's business was taking adventure seekers on these Titanic dives.
Well, we're sitting on the Titanic. Yeah, on the Titanic.
For $250,000.
What is all of this? I asked this before, like all of this weird stuff that's like a binding to the hull of the ship. Is it like the metal kind of deforming and rusting? Like, is it the salt from the ocean?
$1 a ticket on a one-of-a-kind carbon fiber submersible called the Titan.
Carbon fiber is a great material. It's better than titanium. It's better than a lot of other materials.
This is Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate and the designer of the sub. Last Sunday, as he was piloting the sub to the Titanic, it imploded, killing him and his 4 passengers.
Horrible.
We spent 9 days at sea with Rush last summer, and in wake of the tragic news, we thought you might like to see more of what we saw and hear more of what Stockton Rush said.
The Titan wasn't like any previous deep-sea submersible. There was no dashboard, just a touchscreen computer and a single power button.
Wow.
We only have one button. That's it.
Wait a minute, I've seen submersibles, and they are banks of controls, like cockpit after cockpit.
Exactly. And this is to other submersibles what the iPhone was to the BlackBerry.
But many of its components seemed surprisingly cheap. For views outside the sub, he had installed store-bought security cameras.
Wow.
As for the ceiling lights,
I got these from Camper World.
and then there was the steering unit.
We run the whole thing with this game controller.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everything has to be expensive on board a vessel, but if you're paying $250,000 and you're risking your life by going so deep into the ocean, and I saw that, and I saw, some of the other fixtures and fittings, I would be a little concerned here. Doesn't seem very professional. Doesn't really build your confidence.
Come on! So, it seems like a lot of the way you made this is by taking off-the-shelf parts and sort of MacGyvering them together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Does that not raise anybody's eyebrows in the industry?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely an outlier. There were a lot of rules out there that didn't make engineering sense to me.
Everyone I know keeps asking me the same question. Why would you get on that dangerous sub?
Yep.
Well, first of all, Stockton Rush had the credentials.
He majored in aerospace engineering at Princeton. He designed and flew his own airplanes. He designed previous submersibles. Second, he was emphatic that the important parts of the Titan were rock solid.
And to be fair to him, he had gone down there before many times. To be fair, it's not like this was the first time he'd gone down there. I'm thinking they probably should have just, instead of reusing the same Titan, like they should have had maybe many, like a factory line of them that they get like maybe 2 or 3 goes and then they're just retired.
Like the carbon fiber body, for which NASA served as a consultant.
There's certain things that you want to be buttoned down, and that's the pressure vessel. Once the pressure vessel is, you're certain it's not going to collapse on everybody, everything else can fail. Your thrusters can go, your lights can go, you're still going to be safe.
Third, I was convinced by an expert, P.H. Nargelet, the veteran deep-sea explorer who also perished in the Titan. Over the years, he'd been to the Titanic more than just about anyone.
How many times have you been?
With the last dive, 37 times.
You've been to the Titanic 37 times?
Yes. I was in charge of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subs.
How different is the Titan from those other subs?
Completely different. Most of them, you have a sphere.
Was there never a point when you wondered about the safety of the sub at that depth?
No. 2 or 3 years ago, I had a phone call with Stockton, and he explained to me that he was doing a lot of tests. He showed me the ways they were building the stuff. I said, okay, that's fine.
It's so sad because this guy had so much experience. You know, he's done so many dives down there and he's gone now, you know, and all of that knowledge, unless he's recorded, I'm sure he's recorded a lot of stuff, but still, it would be better to have him still alive.
That's fine. I have no problem to dive in the sub.
I was also impressed by the sub's 7 redundant systems for returning to the surface.
These are roll weights. We can actually roll this up and those come off. That gains us some buoyancy to come back to the surface. Okay. These triple weights, we call them, are hydraulically driven.
Expedition manager Kyle Bingham.
Underneath this tray hang these bags. We're around 35 pounds. And those hang down there. Typical dive will have 8 of them. We can also use our thrusters. We have enough power to thrust back up. And then under this last fairing here, we have our variable ballast tank or soft ballast. It's an air bladder that we use a big 10,000 PSI air tank that's under the tail to fill that up, fill it with air, and then it helps bring us to the surface.
There were even
But if you've got that many redundancy systems, how come none of them worked? Or maybe one of them did. And, you know, maybe they came up to the surface, but nobody found them, perhaps.
sandbags that detach automatically after about 16 hours, even if everyone inside had passed out. Their connectors would dissolve in seawater.
So you have a backup of a backup of a backup of a backup of a backup.
Correct.
All stations are reporting the dive is go. Please stand by.
Finally, the crew seemed to foster a culture of safety. There were checklists, inspections before and after every dive, and a 3 strikes rule. If 3 things seemed out of the ordinary, no matter how minor, they'd cancel the dive. I learned that the hard way on our own dive.
We're in the water, we're floating. Woo!
At this point, divers are supposed to detach the sub from its launch platform.
So apparently those floats there came off the platform and that wasn't supposed to happen.
So we're scrubbing?
Yeah, I think that's the consensus up here.
Copy that.
I never did see the Titanic, and I wasn't unusual. In OceanGate's first 2 summers of Titanic operations, it spent a total of 50 days floating above the shipwreck site. But because of waves, bad weather, and malfunctions, the Titan actually made it to the Titanic only 12 times.
Wow.
But
like
through
25%.
it all, Stockton Rush defended his unconventional approach.
I mean, anything when you're trying something outside the box, people inside the box think you're nuts. Same thing when Elon Musk was doing SpaceX. Inside the box, everything's scary.
But as early as 2018, there was concern about the Titan's design. A former employee says that when he raised safety concerns, Rush fired him.
Yeah.
That same year, a group of submersible engineers urged Rush to seek certification of the Titan by a safety agency. Rush declined, saying that regulation would stifle innovation.
Oh my God. I think I understand where he came from there, but this is a highly, risky thing he's trying to do. Like, it's not like he's just making burgers here. Like, you're risking people's lives. You have to be on top of the safety in every area.
At some point, safety just is pure waste. I mean, if you just want to be safe, don't get out of bed, don't get in your car, don't do anything. Yeah. At some point, you're going to take some risk, and it really is a risk-reward question.
Yeah, but you can minimize the risk
just as safely by breaking the rules.
So, Captain McLaren, have you spent much time in submarines?
David, my total time under the water, divorced from the outside atmosphere, is a little over 5 3/4 years. No kidding. Fact.
Years.
Retired U.S. Navy submarine captain Alfred McLaren is not impressed by OceanGate's innovations.
I mean, would you fly in an airplane that somebody excitedly tell you, well, it's going to be a lot cheaper because we found a new way of attaching the wings? Yeah, right.
He theorizes that the Titan failed not because it was made of carbon fiber, but because it was made of 3 dissimilar materials: carbon fiber, titanium, and plexiglass for the porthole.
When you have different materials, different molecular structure, they have different coefficients of expansion and compression.
Right.
And then you make repeated cycles in depth. Of course you're going to work that seal loose. And that's why submarines don't run around with any portholes at all, come to think of it. It's a weak point.
I think there's a great, almost surreal irony here, which is Titanic sank because the captain took it full steam into an ice field at night on a moonless night with very poor visibility, after he had been repeatedly warned by telegram, by Marconigram.
In an interview with Anderson Cooper, filmmaker and veteran Titanic diver James Cameron pointed out a sad parallel between Stockton Rush and the captain of the Titanic.
The arrogance and the hubris that sent that ship to its doom is exactly the same thing that sent those people in that sub to their fate.
Yeah.
The world mourns the loss of Stockton Rush, P.H. Nargeolet, and their 3 passengers, British billionaire Hamish Harding, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, and his son Suleiman.
Terrible.
Already there's talk of restrictions and regulations and lawsuits. Will the OceanGate disaster mean fewer people going adventuring?
Probably not.
Well, every year people do die skydiving and scuba diving and climbing Mount Everest. Tragic every time, and yet people still keep coming. Some people just have that itch. For them, danger is the point. The risk of dying gives meaning to living. I think Stockton Rush was among them.
I wanted to be sort of the Captain Kirk. I didn't want to be the passenger in the back. And I realized that the ocean is the universe. That's where life is.
Rest in peace. That was a very well put together video, and I liked how balanced they were in their assessment of Stockton, in their assessment of the actual submarine itself. It wasn't just an all-out attack on him and the submarine. And the more you understand someone, and I feel like I got a decent understanding of him, the more I kind of have more empathy towards him. It's not like he was deliberately trying to cut corners. It was just that the very nature of his personality, which it seemed like he was quite open to risk, meant that, if there was any kind of obstacle that would either slow him down or make it really expensive for people to actually get tickets on the submarine, he wasn't going to do that. His goal was to create a company that took people down to the Titanic and wasn't absurdly expensive. I mean, $250,000 per ticket is still insanely expensive, don't get me wrong. But in the last video I watched, they said that, had Stockton done all of the testing, had made more Titans so that you didn't have to send one down more than 4 times, the ticket would be like $1 million per person, which you know, there's a big difference, right, between $250,000 and $1 million. So I do have sympathy. Obviously, he lost his life, and PH as well. You know, that's a lot of expertise that we've lost as well, and the 3 other people as well. It's just a tragedy, really, a total tragedy, but I'm sure lessons will be learned. And like the narrator said, it's not going to stop people from going down to the Titanic. It might make the companies more diligent, I guess, in their research and their testing, but it ain't going to stop people going down there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.